the notorious AfrikaBurn, a utopian city built from dust, fire and chaos in the middle of a South African desert. No internet, no money, no rules. Just 10,000 wild souls, addicted to freedom and far from normal. I thought I came for the wildest party of my life, but what I found was something entirely different. Moments of madness, moments of magic, and moments that broke me open in ways I never saw coming. This wasn't a festival, it was a life-changing initiation. Back from AfrikaBurn. 1 week partying in the desert with 10,000 other madmen and mad women, of course. But if you're expecting the craziest, most hedonistic AfrikaBurn report, I'm gonna disappoint you. That's not what I experienced. But my week in the desert was more about personal transformation in the end. And if I had to summarize it within 3 words, it would be intense, ambivalent, and random. Very, very random. And you'll understand if I tell you the story about my 27th birthday, the Wednesday at the burn. So we arrived on Monday afternoon, and I wanted to give myself 1 day to arrive and settle in. So on the Tuesday I was just pretty much chilling, walking around and getting an overview of the burn, and also to get a coffee at the Sunrisers camp where my boxing partner Freddie was part of. And funnily enough, we met each other when I got there, and he just came back with a group of mates, and they were sweating. So I asked them, like, where do you guys come from? And he said, oh, we just hiked that mountain. And I looked at that mountain, which looked very, very far, and I asked them how long they took. And Freddie was there, like, oh, just an hour there, an hour back, which really impressed me. But I thought, oh, might be a cool idea for my birthday tomorrow. If Freddie can do it, I can do it, surely, in 1 hour, right? So the next day, on my birthday, I got up at like 4, 5-ish, because I fancied a sunrise hike on my birthday by myself on mushrooms. Thought that would be a cool ritual to introduce the new year of my life. So yeah, got up, took the mushrooms and set off by myself. I left the property and started hiking through the desert, and hiked for half an hour, for an hour, for 1.5 hours, until I started to realize that I wasn't coming any closer. And also, my torch stopped working. I didn't have my phone. I mean, there was no service anyways, but at some point I found myself there in the middle of the fucking desert, surrounded by complete darkness, completely by myself, and for obvious reasons, tripping badly on the morning of my 27th birthday. Yeah, quite rough. I had quite a rough, 20 minutes, which felt, if you've ever been on mushrooms, kind of like 20 eternities maybe, until I came to the conclusion that I wouldn't be making it to the top of the mountain anymore, because it was still like 3 hours away maybe. And I turned around and wandered back. I made it. I somehow made it back to the property, and when I got back, the sun was already rising. The zombies from the night prior were wandering around as well, similarly devastated as me. And I just wanted to find a spot where I could see the sunrise and just be sad. Until I found a spot, and there was an old man sitting on a bench and meditating, and I kind of felt drawn to him, so I walked up to him and asked if I could sit with him. He said yes, and we started chatting, and I pulled my heart out, cried a little, and he was just being there for me, holding space with his wisdom. An 80 years old South African farmer. Steph, you're a legend in contrast to the motherfucker Freddy. And yeah, that's how my 27th birthday started. I actually found Steph again in the evening, which, if you haven't been to the burn yet, happens very rarely. Like, once you lose people, you don't find them again. But I did find him, and he asked me for some MDMA, and, well, coincidentally, I had some with me, and I gave it to him. So, cheers again, Steph. Hope you had an epic night with Molly. And yeah, the next day, I thought, okay, let's forget about yesterday. Today is the day when the AfrikaBurn starts for me. So instead of having mushrooms, I had some LSD. And you got to know, the weeks prior to the burn, I was wrestling with big life decisions about my professional life, about my romantic life, about traveling and home, settling down. And I kept postponing decisions. So I was already carrying this inner tortoise with me. And, if you're a bit educated about psychedelics, you might know that they usually intensify things. And that's what the LSD did. Colors became more intense, sounds became more intense, but also inner struggles. And not only the superficial struggles, but also deeply rooted fundamental struggles, such as the feeling of loneliness or non-belonging anywhere for me. Feeling I've been carrying with me for forever. And although I'd consider myself an experienced psychonaut, or maybe because of that, I know that every now and then you just get your ass kicked, right? Especially if you don't live authentically. And yeah, that's what happened once again on that very Thursday. Shit became really intense and rough for me, and eventually I found myself in the back of my friend's Land Rover, which was the only spontaneous sanctuary available for me that very afternoon. And yeah, I just ended up sitting there battling with my inner demons for 5-6 hours in that quite uncomfortable trunk. But if I learned one thing on my psychedelic voyages, it's that the only way out is in, right? And there are more convenient settings than the South African Karoo, surrounded by massively disturbing and nowhere really to escape. But, that's what life is about. And after having survived that trip, we had dinner and I was pretty much done with the day. I just wanted to go to bed, but also felt like I needed a walk, some movement. So I went for a little stroll with the friend and my girlfriend who were trip setting me. Thank you, Isabel and Rob. And we were talking about, that there was proper music missing at the Burn. I mean 80s tunes. And life made us come across the Atypical Bar, which was, guess what? Playing 80s. And the Atypical Bar is named Atypical Bar for a reason, because they do atypical activities there. And on that very Thursday, the theme of the night was naked karaoke. And I just felt called, you know. I mean, one of my mantras is that life is a game. We got put here on this planetary ball spinning around in the middle of nothingness. We might as well just have fun, right? So yeah, I got up there, told them I would sing my song. Whitney Houston, I Wanna Dance With Somebody, and got completely naked. And the crowd went fucking mental. And you know what? In the end, that was one of the best LSD trips I've ever had. Because I once again learned that life is a game. And it's up to us to have fun in this game. As well as that life happens in the now. The next day I got up and I had almost forgotten about that bad trip the day before. Because in a blink of an eye, I just switched from suffering to having fun. We can do that in every single moment of our life. Screw what happened this morning. That you were stuck in traffic, or that your boss screamed at you. Fuck that. You can be happy, you can have fun right here, right now. Be here now. That next Friday, I felt so much lighter, and I randomly decided to get one of our dried mango bags, 1 kilogram of dried mango, and I just walked around and shared that dried mango with people. And people were so thrilled and grateful for that. You can't imagine. That once again taught me the lesson service instead of self-obsession. Especially in the so-called personal or spiritual development bubble. I observe that it's so often about ourselves. And I definitely fall into this trap myself every now and then. So instead of, digging deeper and deeper and deeper and trying to heal all of our traumas, maybe we should just shed all the shit we're carrying and be of service for others. And speaking of others, that's another lesson AfrikaBurn taught me. Because, I've been struggling with finding my people almost all my life. I've been traveling around the world for 5 years. I lived in multiple places. But I always felt like I wasn't able to really connect with the people around me because they wouldn't understand me. They wouldn't get who I am, even in the so-called spiritual bubble. But being at AfrikaBurn, I definitely got to learn that there are enough maniacs like you and me out there. Just gotta find them. And speaking of maniacs, when I was done with sharing that 1 kilogram of dried mango, I went back to where I had my bike parked And coincidentally, there were a bunch of people standing there with their bikes, naked. And I looked at them and I was like, okay, life, I get it. So I walked up to them, asked, I'm assuming you guys are going on a naked bike tour? And they were like, yeah, you want to join? So, you know, I joined. And it was hella fun, because I don't know if you've ever gone naked in public, or at least, you know, in a setting like this, but man and woman, I'll guarantee you it's going to be one of the greatest feeling of freedom you'll ever feel in your life. So I'll see you on the naked karaoke stage next year. And yeah, other than that, it felt so good to be out in nature for a week without any displays, in order to disconnect, to connect with other people, but also with myself. I find it so essential to have at least a yearly habit of doing a digital detox, to come back to this reality and to experience nature as medicine. Lastly, I would like to share the biggest release I experienced at the burn, which was the silent burn at the end of the festival, when people were sitting around the temple, and a lot of them, including me, had written a message on the wood, and just observing this so powerful element of fire burning down the wood in complete silence, and this like collective spirit of grief and letting go was one of the most magical experiences in my life. And it also helped me to drop certain roles and expectations of myself that weren't serving me anymore, that weren't authentic. And this is why I decided to make this video. It's another ritual for me to take the mask off. Rituals release. Rituals can be so liberating. So here I am, for the first time, sitting in front of a camera without a script whatsoever, speaking in my non-native language about very intimate experiences. Because I know, that's also what I learned, AfrikaBurn, that nobody fucking cares. As hard as it sounds, most people are busy with their own shit. And even if you pass hundreds of people in a group of mad nudists, they'll look at you for like 2 or 3 seconds, have a passionate laugh, not about you, but just about what absurdity is happening. And let's be honest, all of this is fucking absurd. And we all carry on with our lives. So ultimately, AfrikaBurn helped me to make those big life decisions. I struggled more than half a year with shutting down my business, with shedding the old skin, with letting go of a role. But eventually, I made it. I decided to fuck the bucks and go for the experience instead. I really hope this video had some inspiration for you. See you in the desert.